You got it. Brittney Wilson, the Nerdy Nurse. Actually, I've known about you for a long time, certainly through social media channels, so I'm very happy that you could join us today on air. So let's dive right in to see what you're seeing from a standpoint of trends in the industry, and then I'll talk about some actionable intelligence past that. But all of my guests over the past... Okay. You're telling me that Karen just walked in? Okay. So then, Brittney, one moment. But I do want you to think through some of the trends that you're seeing in the industry, because I want to have you back very shortly here, right after Karen. And I want to talk about the trends, and also want to talk about... Okay. And I want to talk about actionable intelligence, because that's the goal of my show. So we're going to put her on hold, and we're going to keep you right there, Brittney. So let's talk through that for a moment here. So tell us, what do you see as some of the trends out there in healthcare, even across the industry in healthcare, health IT?
So one of the big things that I've seen recently is trying to connect the dots of all this data we're collecting, right? So for years, we've been using EHRs and EMRs and all sorts of data points. There's the Internet of Things where we're collecting all this information, even about the workforce. We know so much stuff, but we're not using that information thoughtfully. So I think one of the bigger trends that I see is more than just big data analytics. What are we doing with this data? How are we going to make that data work for us? How is it going to improve patient care? How is it going to better develop our workforce? And if we're not going to use it, then let's stop collecting it.
Very good point. So what else do you see for trends in 2016?
As I come here every year, things that I have visualized in my head.
How many years have you been coming to HIMSS?
This is actually my second year.
Excellent.
But as I follow the health IT trends, I see these concepts that are in reality. And just earlier today, I was at a booth, and they had this smartphone that they use for their nurse communication. So I see a lot more elevation of the connected communication platforms, secure messaging, and the ability to communicate in real time without having to leverage these antiquated fax machines and this other technology.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of those communication trends. The biggest, really, I guess, big picture here is that we have all these cool things, but there's 4,000 companies and there's not a lot of standardization. So I would say that's the underlying trend that a lot of people are talking about, but nobody's really digging into. You've got all of these concepts that exist, all these companies that are solving these problems, but it's 400 companies that are solving the same problem and doing it vastly different ways.
Fantastic point. So what would you say are some best practices that care providers or even companies should use to navigate the future of healthcare?
I would say I want to go back to data, because I really think we're collecting too much data. And let me qualify that. We're not collecting too much data. We're not doing anything valuable with this data. Right. We had this big, huge, awesome, meaningful use push, and that sounds so fantastic, right? You hear meaningful use, you're like, oh, we're going to use this data, we're going to do something with it, but we're not. We're not doing anything with it. And most of the nurses at the bedside know how to get to very limited aspect of the medical record. So they're only capturing just a small subset of all this information they've collected. They're not able to make these informed decisions. We don't have this trending of patient data that would help us make these decisions. I've seen a couple of companies who are utilizing it and doing these beautiful graphs that kind of capture in technology that nursing intuition that you think is like a concept that's abstract, but I've seen where they're taking this data and putting into a graph where you can see the minute before a patient tanks. So I mean, we're seeing all these things kind of get out there, and it's really exciting.
So tell me, what is your blog about? I mean, tell me about the Nerdy Nurse and what people. First of all, where can people go find it?
Oh, yes.
And then tell us about it.
So it's thenerdynurse.com. I'm also on Twitter at thenerdynurse, and I talk about nursing and technology issues. And I have a passion for technology advocacy and technology empowerment among the workforce. I believe that your system is only as good as your weakest link, and that's not to say that nurses are weak. They're some of the strongest people. We do not spend the time to educate them on the technologies that are available to do their job better. And as much as we want to advocate for safe staffing, I don't think we're going to see less patients. We're going to see more and more. And we've got to figure out how we get technology and tools and better ways to care for those patients as they get sicker. So find me at thenerdynurse.com.
That's fantastic. Brittney, thank you very much for jumping on air. A little bit out of turn, but I appreciate it greatly. You are fantastic, a great guest.
Thank you for having me.
And have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.